My name is Jim, and today we are going to take a look at some of the new contracts that have popped up in the Mission Control building. In the first episode, we completed the first 4 contracts that everyone always gets. These are procedurally generated. They follow certain patterns, so we'll kind of go through what's in here real fast and take a look at how they do things and what they look like. So, for example, here's a test, a Mark 16 parachute in flight over Kerbal. 1 star means it's kind of trivial, 2 stars means it's significant, and 3 stars means it's exceptional. So a nice little, go back to our parachute test here. So it expires in 2 days, so we have 2 days to accept it, or we can just decline it with no penalty. Once we accept it, we have 1 year to carry it out, otherwise we fail. Okay, to perform the test, we have to activate the parachute with staging, and we have to do it between an altitude of 17,900 meters and 26,600 meters. And we have to be going 110 meters per second, over 110 meters per second, or less than 310. Now, a lot of these flight ones, getting this combination is kind of complicated. You have to watch 2 numbers at once. So in general, we're going to kind of avoid these. Now, also, the reward isn't that great. But we'll talk more about this and how to actually accomplish these later. But right now, we want to get some good, solid contracts that can continue our progress. Right now, we have 111,000 funds, and we have a good start towards unlocking the next thing in the science tree. Okay, next one is test a Rokomax Mark 55 radio mount liquid engine landed. So that means once we fire it on the launch pad, we automatically complete this contract. So these are kind of good ones to kind of save up. So here's solid fuel booster in flight over Kerbal. Again, this is one 18,000 meters to 26,000 meters. Usually our solid fuel boosters are our first stage, and so we're not quite at these altitudes before we burn them. And then these speeds are, we're probably over 400 at this altitude. So this is one you have to kind of fiddle with the flight profile. So again, this is something we're going to mostly avoid. Test a stack decoupler in flight over Kerbal. Same thing. This one in particular, 200 meters per second at 20,000 meters. That's really slow. So that's a difficult one to get. Landed the Kerbal, launch stability enhancer, landed the Kerbal. Again, all we have to do is launch. And this is the scaffolding on the launch pad. So this is an easy test. As soon as we launch, we complete the contract. Not much reward, 50 fun to dance and 189 for completing, but we get 14 science out of it, so that's pretty cool. What was the other one that landed? We didn't look at the reward. Again, just a few hundred, but 14 science. So we can do those 2 pretty easily. Okay, here's a rescue mission. Dilbro is orbiting Kerbal, and we have to go up and rendezvous with him and allow him to get in the capsule and bring him home. So if we can get into orbit, we can do this. So this is one that falls in the category of eminently doable. Test an LVT-45 liquid fuel engine orbiting Kerbal. This is pretty much the engine we were using for our last stage of our orbital ship last episode. So again, this is something we can do easily as part of the rescue mission. So we want to think of these together. Test the Rokomax 48-7S orbiting Kerbal. I don't recall what this engine is. That might be the weaker engine. But again, this is something that's probably pretty easy to do. Test the solid fuel booster orbiting Kerbal. Okay, here's where we have to start getting into building specialized ships to get that into orbit so we can test it. So I put these in a different category. These we can do as part of a normal flight profile with a normal ship. These might need some extra fiddling to get these parts in orbit and testable. Test the Sepratron in a suborbital trajectory. That's not too hard because we could just have Sepratrons on whatever stage we'd be firing when we're suborbital. So pretty much if we put a couple of these on the tanks that are running this engine, we can do that, stage it separately, and just add to our boost for a few seconds and wouldn't change anything about our mission. Explore the moon. Okay, that's its all different thing. That's its own set of problems, and we'll tackle that in time. And test small gear bay orbiting Kerbal. 3 stars. Let's take a look at 41 science, 48,000 funds. So that's definitely something we want to do. But that would be probably part of these, testing these 2 things and this at the same time. So looking over these, let's go ahead and decline the ones we aren't interested in at the moment. We want to keep our contract situation as clear as possible. It's very easy to get confused and start doing things that really start compromising our space program. So we want to avoid those at the moment at all costs. So we're going to go ahead and decline that. We're going to decline, oh no, that's what we're going to do. Solid booster in flight, we're going to decline that. As we decline that, see, we're getting new ones. Science data from space around Kerbin. See, here we go. So if we collect science around Kerbin, we would get 31,000 funds. We can do that while we're rescuing Dilbro. So let's get rid of these others we're not going to do. In flight, these flight ones, like I said, these get pretty complicated fast, so we're going to decline that. Looks like we got a new test, just different parameters. So they'll keep asking for some of these, will pop up over and over again. So it looks like declining is a good way of getting new ones. And we got one that we can do. So, but first, let's do the landed ones. So now we got a radial decoupler landed at Kerbin. So now we have 3. So let's do them. Let's test Rokomak's Mark 55. Let's test the launch stability enhancer. And let's test the radial decoupler. And any others landed? Orbiting, 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 suborbital, orbiting, flight, and orbiting. Okay, so let's go do this. So now we go into the VAB. We need one of these for now. We don't have a probe yet, so we have to have a manned mission. So we have to make sure that we don't risk this Kerbal's life. So we'll put a parachute, and we'll put a decoupler here so we can get away. Okay, so now let's look at our contracts, and we can do that down here. So, radial mount liquid engine, that is this engine right here. So we need to put that around a tank. We also need to test the stability enhancers. So we'll need to test that. And we'll need to test the TT-70 radial decoupler. That is this one. All landed at Kerbin. So what we need to do is, this is really simple. We just need a regular fuel tank. We need 2 of these engines. Actually, let's go just because I need more room for stuff. We can put 2 of these engines here, so that'll give us our thrust. We are going to mount 2 of these this way, and we're just going to put small tanks on the end of that, because we're just going to throw those off as soon as we launch, because remember, it has to be landed. Once we take off, the conditions for these decouplers being tested no longer applies. And then we just need to test a couple of these. So that is a rocket that will accomplish 3 contracts as soon as we hit the spacebar. And here's the ones we did before, so let's go ahead and discard these just so they're not in our way on the interface. Alright, crew, okay, Jebediah, you can go again. Let's save this. This is a design number 2. Landed tests number 1. Because we might get more of these contracts later, so we'll need to build different ships for that. Alright, and let's save that. And before we head to launch pad, this cost us 7,122 to build. So we have plenty of money, and it doesn't show what we're going to get here. That's one thing I wish this interface would do. Oh yeah, we need to check our staging, because all this stuff has to stage all at the same time to count as being landed at Kerbin. So we'll test those engines, we'll test the stability enhancers, and we'll test the decouplers. So let's save that with the new staging, and launch. Alright, we are on the launch pad. Thrust is 50%. That's one thing you'll notice with the new version, is it'll automatically put thrust at 50%. Let's go ahead, we'll go ahead and boost it up to 100%. And put SAS on. Let's go ahead and pull up our contracts, keep them highlighted so we can see them, and as soon as we hit spacebar in 3, 2, 1, liftoff, we have accomplished all 3 of these contracts, and we have gained not that much science yet, or funds. I'll have to look at what, yeah, we spent 7,000, it looks like we got a couple thousand back, so we'll have to look, actually we can look at it here while we're flying up. So we only got 189 there, 241 there, and 382, but we're getting science, so this, yeah, 14 for each of these, 42 total. I'd say that's a pretty good little exchange. So let's just go ahead and close all that. And we're up to 16,000 meters. And once again, I'm going to speed up the footage and just let this fall back to the ground. Be right back. Okay, I am back, and if you noticed, I've switched the staging. I'm going to try something here. I'm going to go and open the parachute. And we're going to see if how much of this we can save. Because remember, we get funds back for parts that we recover. So if any of this survives, we'll get extra funds back. I should have cut my engines before I completely ran out of fuel, and that way I'd have enough to kind of pad my landing here. So that's something I will keep in mind for future missions. But let's see what happens here. How much explodes. Okay, well, we pretty much got the capsule back, which we would have gotten if we would have staged anyway. So no loss, but no gain either. Anyway, we are back on the ground. Let's recover this. And I did a crew report while I was up there. So I got a crew report from up there, atmosphere 4, 3.5 science. And then we have a total of 75. So I think we're going to lock something else. And here's where we got our command pod and our parachute. And did one of those actually survive? Oh, unless it just fell off and flew away somewhere, but we did get the decoupler back, and the monopropellant. Alright, so we're up to 106,000, so the mission lost about 5,000 funds. But that's okay, because we gained quite a bit of science. Here we got Jebediah back. So let's go into the science building here, and take a look at what we can get, and I think the bigger fuel tanks and those radial engines will be our next item. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. And we have 30 science left, so we only need 15 to unlock the rest of this. Alright, so back to mission control. Okay, so active, we have nothing active because we accomplished all 3 of those. And now it's available. We got some more landed, but we're going to move on. We're going to do an orbit. We're going to start with the rescue. That's our main goal. So we'll get a 12,000 advance, and we'll get 50,000 for completion. No science. But while we're on the way, we can test a couple of things up there, because I should look to see what this engine was. So this we can do without affecting our rescue mission. And we can also, this will be our engine while we're in space anyway, so we can easily test that in space. We'll get 8 science and 26,000 funds. Now let's just take a quick look. Anything else orbiting? That's, like I said, that, and that, and that are slightly more difficult. We'll take their own mission. In flight, in flight, in flight, and just one landed. We want to try to get several done at once with these landed ones. And science data from space round Kerbal. We can do this while we're rescuing our Kerbal up in orbit. So we have 4 active now. 2 of which do not require special parts. And just collecting science and rescuing Dilbro. And then we do test other things on the way. So, back to the VAB. Now we could use the orbital stage we used before, but I want to improve on that. And also notice that it shows the cost of these ships here. And this is the auto-save version of this. It's the same ship. So we can actually look at our costs when we're looking in the load screen. Anyway, let's do a new one. Cancel this. Start anew. Okay, we have our main capsule. Remember, we're rescuing somebody, so we need a second capsule. Let's just stick that right on top. We need utility. Oh, there it is. We need a little bit of extra parachute power, so let's go ahead and do 2 of these. There's a test for this in flight, but I'm not going to worry about that. Oops, they get symmetry. And then it wants us to do science in orbit. We've done most of the EVAs, so let's bring couple of goo pods. We'll stick them on this capsule. There we go. Kind of a funky looking little collection there. This should work. And because we are adding extra weight to this, let's put that there. And so we have 3 parachutes. Alright, stack decoupler under that. We're not going to worry about saving anything else on the ship. Propulsion, a half tank here with the LV T45. LV909, so I'm not sure what the other one I want to test. I think it might be one of the mini engines. Anyway, that's that stage. Our rescue stage and then coming back. So now we need another stack decoupler. And then here we can use one of these big tanks. But let's add on to a little bit. That, we need to get this up a little bit higher. I have to grab it from this capsule because this is the root structure of this ship. See, if I grab this one, it just pulls right off. Alright, and the LV T45 engine there. So that's going to get us into orbit. And now we need booster stage, or first stage. So now we have these. Let's go 4 times symmetry. And go once again, go with the big tank. These cost 1,600 each. And we're going to add another half tank to those. And 4 more engines. As you can see, this ship is getting pretty expensive. 27,000. We're going to make 50,000 from, I think, the rescue alone. Plus we got an advance of pretty good amounts. We're at already 140,000. So it would be pretty good. I think we're okay. But now we have strut, so let's just do a little bit of reinforcing. And then we can put these out. It only costs 200 each. And I think... Am I missing anything? We're going to test that. Oh yeah, the little separatrons. They're in propulsion. So we're just going to stick a couple... Because we're suborbital, so we'll stick a couple right there. And we'll fire that off with that engine. Because that will give us a little extra boost when we're firing anyway. Yes, because we will be... Suborbital, I think, does mean out of the atmosphere. And so this stage should be out of the atmosphere when we start burning it. Alright, now the rest. We want that to burn with that decoupling. We want those to burn with that releasing. And all these to burn when that... And that's to separate these and then our parachute. Okay, so we are ready to fly. Okay, crew, it's time to rotate. Let's get Bill Kerman. After this, I'll add... Let's get him out and add Bill Kerman to the main command pod. And keep that one empty for our rescuee. And save and launch. Just realized I forgot to save it as a particular name, but that's okay. Alright, we're not too worried about that at the moment, so let's put up resources. SAS on. Throttle to about 2/3 again. 3, 2, 1, lift off. Oh, need a little more oomph. So not between 2/3 and full. It's a little heavier because of the extra capsule and goo pods. And there's a possibility that this ship does not have quite enough to get into orbit, but I'm not too worried. We had a lot of extra fuel in the last stage last time, so it should be okay. But this is the principle I advise you to follow until you really get a hang of what kind of contracts you want. Is bundle of contracts in similar flights. Orbital flights are a good one to use. Landed are a good one to use. The flying ones, like I said, they're problematic mostly because of the velocities at certain altitudes kind of don't make sense for the flight profile. Like, for example, we're approaching 200 meters per second, less than 10,000 meters, so I can go ahead and extend this burn a bit. Go ahead and lean over a bit. Looks like we'll get up to between 15 and 20,000 before the stage burns out. And so next after this we'll put together that orbital ship that will test those other parts. And that, should be a nice little mission that'll get us some good funds. Okay, ready to stage. Throttle up. It's one thing we'll remember to do because this stage is pretty weak. So that's why I'm going a little more vertical. I'm not turning over the 45 until we're at 30,000 meters. So, okay, let's take a look at the map view. 45,000, so and here's our rescuee, Dilbro. And set him as target. And he's at, what altitude is he at? He's at 108,000. Okay, so we'll go ahead and, because we're ahead of him, we should have timed it better, but we'll go ahead and go up to, let's get in orbit first. So let's just do 75. And we should use up most of the rest of this tank of this stage, building up our speed, and then the last little bit will be this one, which will fire the separatrons and test that. It'll also test this engine, just by the sake of being attached at the right time and staged at the right time. Okay, 47 seconds. Okay, the music means we're in space, 70,000 meters or higher. Okay, let's start burning. I'm gonna do like a kind of slow burn, 2/3. Start off here. And if this stage actually would accomplish getting us into orbit, we don't want to do that actually. So we'll cut engines and stage and let the last stage complete it. That way we complete our, we can get rid of these. Here's the ones we did before. Alright, let's take a look at our stage. Still got quite a bit of fuel left. Going to fire it up because our apoapsis is getting behind us, so we want a little bit of oomph. And then tilt up a little bit just to keep it going. 1800. Okay, it did cut out. So now when we stage, we should get 2 of these right away. Why didn't that... Oh, at a higher altitude. I didn't take a look at that parameter. That's interesting. Alright, so we're in orbit. And I'm not sure if there's a way I can restage these. Well, since we have time, let me look at this, because this is the kind of thing that might come up. Because we definitely don't want to... Well, what we can do... Don't think we can fire that off in space, or can we? Okay, so we need to be above 87,000. What's our... Whoa, our apoapsis is way up there. Well, I wasn't paying attention when we were burning, but that's kind of okay because it'll help us reach a rendezvous with Dilbro. So this is one of the reasons why this contract system kind of gets people in a frazzle, because there's so many different things to keep track of at once. You're not just going to rescue him, you're trying to do this side mission, you're trying to test these different parts that you haven't used before, you're trying to reach particular altitudes and velocities, so it gets pretty confusing. So let's get up to the altitude we need, 87,000. Okay, so we're at the proper altitude. Now, the question is... Okay, so if I shut down the engine, stage the parachute, and then stage the engine. Okay, I have achieved the test condition. So, that's the second one. Now we need to go... Actually, the next one is science. Near Kerbal, 10 science. Let's save it for... yeah, let's save it for when we land, because we'll get some landed science. Otherwise, we'll just get about 3 from doing the second one. So we'll see where we land. Alright, now the question is, let's rescue Dilbro. So we need to rendezvous. Alright, so if we do... do a bit of a burn, those purple ones should start coming together. 10 kilometers, 20... So somewhere in there. 43 meters per second. Very, very quick burn. Oops, the staging didn't reactivate the engine, so I have to do that. Alright, so do that little quick burn. I'm not too concerned about missing the... We actually got better than the maneuver, 6 kilometers. Okay, so let's go over there. And so we'll get our first lesson in rendezvousing. I didn't really go into detail of how I found it. It's kind of natural for me, so if you're confused, I will go over this in more detail in later episodes or future rescue missions. Okay, but at this part of it I will explain in detail as we get close. Now what we want to do is we need to cut our velocity between us and the target. Now we'll pretty much equalize our orbits. So 200 meters per second, that's quite a bit. Let's get rid of that. So we gotta cut that velocity down quite a bit. Let's chase that down a little bit, just to be a little more accurate. Alright, we're within 1 meters per second, so now you can see that our orbits are pretty close to identical. Not super close, but we're within range. So we're 13 kilometers away now, so we let him get a little bit away from us. So next step is to burn towards him. And when you're doing rendezvous maneuvers, one of the things you can do is you can chase the yellow towards the pink when you're doing prograde. Actually, sorry, the other way around. You pull the yellow towards pink. So even I get confused, I've done this a billion times. And then once it's aligned, we can go ahead and burn. Let's go ahead and get 25 meters per second to close things up a bit. And then we can get over here. Let's get resources up. Electrical charge is an issue because we don't have solar panels yet. The engines do recharge. But okay, let's time warp. Get him closer. And now you can see he's kind of like going off to the side, and the markers are moving away. It's because we're in different orbits, and as we move around, we end up kind of getting off track. Now here's where, if you burn, you chase yellow towards the retrograde. So I've done that. So chase a little bit more. There we go. So now we're going 20 meters per second, and we're lined up once more. And drift a bit closer. Try to get within a couple hundred meters, and then let him do the rest with his rocket pack. Okay, we're still getting closer, but not quite at the rate we want. So let's chase this closer again. Alright, now he's within 1,200 meters, so it starts reading out in meters. Just let that close in, and hopefully get around to the sun side here. There we go, there's some light. 200 meters, okay. Let's just shut down this last little bit of relative velocity with our main engines here. And then, using the bracket keys, we switch over to Dilbro. We push R to liven him up and turn on his jetpack. And then we look around for our ship. There it is. So now we can start kind of burning towards it. Don't overdo it, because these jetpacks, yeah, see I'm already really coming at it pretty quickly. Let's double click it to set as a target. Prepare to slow down. There we go, go down. Forwards again. So these rescue missions come up fairly regularly. You know, you have to ask yourself whether the rewards listed on the contract are worth it or not, but generally these aren't too bad, and I'm kind of flailing around. The hatch is at a very bad angle. See if we can grab it without being flung into space again. Alright, now we can crawl up, board the ship, and we can see we've met one of the conditions of the contract. Get Dilbro Kerman aboard a vessel, and that's what this new message is he is now part of the space program crew. But we still need to actually rescue him. And another reason to leave, I just thought of another reason to leave this goo pod clear. Because of the extra science here, if we get this mission again, we can always use the goo pod for this little bit of extra science to complete that mission. And there'll be a sliver left for a third as well, so we're just going to reset that. And now it's time to go home. Because we're not really getting a lot of recovery of our ship, we're going to attempt to land in the desert and get science from that. Surface sample, goo pod, crew report, EVA, all that good stuff. So let's kind of move in a little bit closer. Because remember, with all these contracts, we still have to worry about getting science to unlock our tech tree. But we can do that as part of a lot of these other missions. Okay, so now we need to get on retrograde. And go ahead and burn. Yeah, 107,000 meters. So we know this orbital design works very well. Still have quite a bit of fuel left. and then come down, we'll point at these mountains, that way we'll come down short somewhere in this area, because again, I don't want to land in mountains if I can help it. And one other thing to do is let's get Dilbro out one more time. And I guess the chute really hasn't been activated yet, so it should activate once it gets in the atmosphere. It's staged, but not activated. So let's go ahead and board him again. I just wanted to check that out. So let's move this back up to there. And now it's just a matter of getting home. Here's a kind of nice little shot. Get a thumbnail. Alright guys, let's get you home. Go ahead and warp. And then I will also warp the footage, and I'll see you guys near the ground. Alright, we are down. And let me recenter this so we can do a couple more things. Okay, so with our unused goo pod, we're in the desert, so we got 3 science there. We can do a crew report in the desert, okay. And we can get out Bill, not Dilbro. Dilbro won't be able to get back in, but Bill will. So we can EVA him, and keep him on the ladder first. And then board. EVA again, let go, oop, fall to the ground, waddle a couple steps, EVA report from the surface, and the surface sample. Lots of sand and rocks here. Sure looks hot. Alright, 9 more science there, alright. Let's go ahead and board, grab, whoops, no ragdolling, grab, board, recover. And from our regular science experiments, we retrieved 34.2 science. Now we've ended up with 80 science total. Let's see, parts. And we got 2,900 back. That's not too bad. And we're up to 242,000 in our fund. So we are moving up pretty nicely. And of course, we got 2 guys back in our crew. Let's take a look at our completed contracts. 31,000 there, 1 science, and 145 reputation. Let's go ahead and discard that. Rescue Dilbro, we got 50,000 and 25 reputation. Added to the crew, got on board the vessel, that added another 6,200 to that mission, and then 26,000 for testing the engine, and 11,999, so 12,000, and 8 science for testing the Separatrons. So very, very successful mission. So that will do it for this episode. Next episode, we'll start talking about constructing specialized ships to accomplish these contracts under very specific circumstances. So we'll do these orbital... Oh, they've added Poodle to it, and Skipper in Flight. But yeah, we'll do some of these orbital missions, and we may even try one of the flights just to see, you know, the difficulties involved in meeting those parameters. But anyway, that's it for episode 2 of How to Contract in Kerbal Space Program. My name is Jim. I want to thank you for joining me. Have a great day.